This show is brought to you by PivX Private Instant Verified Transactions. With its groundbreaking Zerocoin staking and masternodes, PivX is the top privacy currency. Feel free to trade some on Binance or Bittrex, and for more information, go to www.pivex.org. Hello and welcome to another edition of ITK Crypto, part of Smart Reach. It's with me, Tom White, as usual, and Cryptosi is here as well. Hello, Cryptosi.
Hi, Tom. How you doing?
I am very well because we've got someone on that we've been trying to lock down for quite a while, haven't we? We've got Reuben Yap from Zcoin. I'm told I've got to pronounce it that way. Reuben, great to have you on, and thank you. How are you doing?
Doing great. Glad to be on.
Excellent. Yeah, we've just been chatting off there, haven't we? That Carl and I, it's very difficult for us to say Zcoin with us being English. We're quite defensive about our language, and we think it should be Zcoin. But
yeah, fine, Zerocoin.
we will bow down to you and call it Zcoin. But it is great to have you on because we have been trying to get this sorted for a long time. But what we start by asking everybody, just for the listeners, Reuben, is just to describe who you are, what your current role is, and your background before getting into crypto.
So I'm officially the Chief Operations Officer, for lack of a better title. I really don't know what my title should be. In Chinese, we call it one leg kick. That means you kind of do everything. So I do everything besides development, but I also lead development direction. I am, my background prior to crypto was, I was actually a lawyer and a partner at a firm for 10 years. And I did a lot of corporate work and also some work for the government. Got a bit disenchanted with that and then went into crypto. But I've also started some internet startups and privacy. So I also own a VPN company. And that's kind of how I got into crypto because we are a privacy service. When we first started, people were like saying, well, you know, what's the point if I pay with PayPal and use your service? And that's how I found out about Bitcoin in about 2012 or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so tell us more about Zcoin then, what it's built to do and everything about it for the listeners.
So we were founded in 2016, or rather mainnet was launched in 2016, and we are a privacy coin. So we really believe like the whole idea of uncensorable money and, you know, the ability to transact without like everyone else knowing what you do is really important for a decentralized currency. And what we use something called zero knowledge proofs, and in particular Sigma. And what we allow people to do is to destroy their coins and at any time in the future redeem them for brand new ones with no transaction history. So that's kind of basically Zcoin in a nutshell. Yeah.
And Cryptosi, how did you come about Zcoin, and what have you known about it?
Well, obviously I was working within crypto for a little while, and then I too fell down the privacy rabbit hole. And Zcoin actually use a protocol called Zerocoin as their privacy, what they did, as their main the main way their privacy works. And that was similar to another project that I was working in. So the two projects were kind of on a very similar path, and I guess you could say rivals, but I think that's probably not a good word. So so I've known about Zcoin for quite a while and got quite a lot of respect for the things that they've done, and particularly the things that they're doing now, the way they're handling their transition after Zerocoin, the way they're handling transition out of Zerocoin is very interesting, and that's the main reason why I've been trying to get them on the podcast for so long.
How is it funded then, Reuben? Was it ICO?
No, there was no ICO. So, this was when the project started, I wasn't even a part of it then. It was like maybe in 2014, 2015, maybe 2015. And a couple of like angel investors gave us not a huge amount of money, maybe like 100, 200,000, maybe 150,000 US dollars. And what happened, that was used to bring Zcoin to fruition in 2016. But yeah, we actually had a really rough start because within 1 month from launch, the co-founder basically couldn't account for all the seed money and basically ditched us. So we didn't have any funds to begin with. But luckily, we do have founders reward, or rather like a development fund, which is currently 6% of the block reward. And the remaining 8% goes to the seed investors and Paramin, who's our founder.
How difficult was that then when you encountered those problems? I would assume a lot of people wouldn't have been able to come out the other side of that.
Yeah, I mean, some people see it as a weakness, and it took a very long time to shed that image, because I think it was like maybe Zcoin, like the way that co-founder structured it seemed to be almost like a pump and dump, right? Like launch it and then basically dump it and have nothing to do with it, right? So that was really unfortunate. And right after that, we even suffered like a really bad hack, which allowed like 400,000 coins to be created out of thin air. So honestly, the first few months of Zcoin were not fun at all. I actually started as a community manager in Zcoin, and interestingly, my legal career kind of helped us to restructure, finding a new investor to give us a little bit of money to continue operating. And I think it took like several years to actually regain people's trust and show that we are a serious team, because, back then we were like one programmer. And then 1 year later, we still had like 2 or 3 programmers. Now we have 8 programmers. We have a cryptographic research team. So the Zcoin today is very, very different than, when we first started, definitely.
When you were hacked, did you ever kind of get to the bottom of how it happened to make sure that it doesn't happen again?
It's really horrible. I mean, like I would say the first hack was basically as a result of only having one developer, right? I mean, back then in 2016, 2015, everyone was starting their little hobby altcoin. And Paramin, he actually founded another coin called Vertcoin. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It used to be like number 8 in market cap at one point in time, but now it's quite a lot lower. But what actually happened was, because he studied in Johns Hopkins, and he was actually studying under Matthew Green, who is of Zcash fame. And at that time, when the Zerocoin paper came out, Paramin thought it was like a really promising privacy solution there, and he decided to take that and launch it into the coin. But the Vertcoin community wasn't too keen about it, and that's kind of how Zcoin started. And if you say, how can we prevent that from happening? Of course, all software has its bugs, but, I do believe that the team right now is a lot more robust than before, definitely.
Well, we haven't mentioned Sigma yet. So what is that?
So Sigma is the replacement to Zerocoin. So Zerocoin was a really old protocol in 2014, and Sigma solves several issues of Zerocoin. Basically, it doesn't have what we call a trusted setup. And a trusted setup means basically it's like people coming together and creating this master key, and then you have to trust them to destroy it. If they don't destroy it, that master key can basically create coins out of thin air, like indefinitely, right? So it's almost like the Lord of the Rings, like the One Ring, right? And you kind of have to trust that they threw it into Mount Doom, right? So that's obviously not a great thing. And they also, opens up certain like cryptographic flaws in there. So Sigma is kind of like a simplified, improved version of Zerocoin, which much better scalability, much better cryptography, and is much actually better documented than the original Zerocoin. So it functions almost the same like Zerocoin, except that it's almost better in almost all regards. Yeah.
We're talking of privacy. Would it be too sensational to suggest that privacy as the front line of government's war on crypto?
I actually think that governments have been using privacy coins as a scapegoat, and it's almost like a gut reaction. Like, people say that, oh yeah, we're preventing money laundering and terrorist funding and all this type of things. And yet, when the largest banks in the world do it, no one goes to jail. They just get a little slap on the wrist, some fine, and no one personally pays for it, right? So at the end of the day, it's not so much about money laundering or terrorist funding. It's more about this is a threat to power, right? To government power and control, and like the ability for a country to print its own money and let it say that it has value. Like, I guess the prime example of that is the US dollar, right? And I do think that privacy, because if you can see it, if you can tell its source, you can tell where it goes, there's still opportunities to freeze it. There's still opportunities to lock it down, as we have seen in certain cases in the past, like Silk Road and all this type of things. But with privacy, it becomes a lot harder to control. And I have a feeling that, governments do suddenly see the threats of this. Like, when they first approached Bitcoin, they hated Bitcoin as well. When they realized that they could track it even better than bank accounts and bank money transfers, they were like, oh yeah, we're cool with Bitcoin now. So yeah, that's my view on it.
What do you think on that, Cryptosi?
Me and Reuben's thoughts are perfectly aligned on that. I do think that it's simply a case of control, and with these privacy protocols, the way they are even now, they're out of control. It's not something that any kind of centralized entity can now control. But not only can they not control it, because they can't really control Bitcoin. I guess they can control when you exchange into it and out of it, so they can control the fiat exchanges. But I think with privacy, not only can they not control it, but they can't see it either. So they can't even attach it to a person and say, oh, well, you done something that we don't like, or you're not doing something that we would encourage. We're going to tell you off. They can't even point the finger with privacy protocols. And I think that's what's really scary for them. But it gives people a real freedom. And I think that it's probably the single most important factor of cryptocurrency for me currently is probably privacy.
Like I just want to add to that, like, one of the things that has been really interesting is that Venezuela choosing to keep some of its reserves in Bitcoin. And I found that really interesting, considering that they actually had lots of gold reserves in the UK, and the UK basically said, nope, we're not going to let you withdraw it. And I think that made them realize that we need the decentralized currency. But the problem with Bitcoin is that every coin is traceable. What happens then if suddenly all centralized exchanges are then saying that we are not going to accept any of these funds? The moment there is taint, we're going to freeze it. We have not seen that yet, but I have a feeling if enough governments start having reserves in Bitcoin, we will definitely start seeing this. And I do believe that, it's not just about preventing against government surveillance, right? It's like, for example, if I pay someone for I'm buying something from someone. If I, let's say, have 100 Bitcoin in a certain address, and I just pay like 0.001 or something for a cup of coffee, suddenly the person who has received my money knows that I have at least 100 Bitcoin in that address. And why should I be giving that information to someone else? So, and another interesting point is that in Germany, despite being one of the most advanced, countries in the Europe or in the world, the people have been very, very reluctant to give up physical cash. Like, you compare it to like the Scandinavian countries where they're all moving towards like cashless societies, or even in China where even cash is sometimes they don't accept cash. They're all using WeChat Pay or Alipay. And the Germans have realized that by having privacy with their money, it's actually a way to keep the governments in balance, because governments should be serving the people and not like controlling the people. And we have to remember that, especially if we claim that democracy is the right thing to do for governing people.
But that's it. A little bit more on that. It is, if we talk about what was once argued, the Dash decided to stop pursuing cutting-edge privacy tech in the face of being ostracized by regulated crypto entities like exchanges. With the recent delisting of privacy coins from Upbit in Korea, how does Zcoin feel about giving up on privacy? And who's actually in charge of deciding the direction of the currency?
This podcast has been brought to you by Rhubarb Media. Rhubarb Media are the branding specialists behind successful crypto projects such as PivX, Vendible, and Libertaria. The Rhubarb style is both loved and respected the world over. So if you want your project to appeal to techies and everyday users alike, give Rhubarb Media a try. You cannot possibly be disappointed. Link is in the description.
I think that's a good point. Well, interestingly, I just wanted to comment on the delisting of all these privacy coins from Korea, especially. It's not just Upbit, but I think also OKX Korea as well. Now, a really interesting thing is that they cite that they are complying with the FATF, Financial Action Task Force recommendations, which is actually total bull because the FATF doesn't actually say anything about this, and they're just using it as a scapegoat to actually ban privacy coins. So it's really interesting because the FATF rule, or also called the Trevor rule, originated in the US, and yet the US doesn't ban privacy coins yet. So how can Korea, when applying a law from the US, suddenly come to a different interpretation on that? It's really, really weird. But, I don't think Zcoin would be giving up privacy. I feel that if we do that, it actually is kind of like removing what Zcoin's identity is all about. Of course, we have a core team that does, of course, have a very strong influence as to the direction of the Zcoin currency. But I think all our community are in Zcoin because of its privacy features, and we pivot from that. I would really say that we will be doing, anyone who has had Zcoin a huge disfavor. And, it might seem to be a challenge now, the fear of centralized exchanges delisting us and all this type of things. But I feel that if you believe in cryptocurrencies in general, this is the exact reason why cryptocurrencies were created to especially with the whole, subprime, we're in the era of, in the sort of situation where Bitcoin was created, it was to address this type of issues. So, when we are talking about privacy coins, that's the original intent of cryptocurrency. And I really think that despite the hurdles, we really have to try to push this type of technology.
Does that all make sense to you, Cryptosi? Does that sound?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, it does. And it's worth noting, and I'll take a note actually, that Reuben produced a video which explained about the whole FATF situation in a lot greater depth, and it's well worth watching. It's I'm not sure, but for me, it seems like an example of regulated exchanges possibly going a step too far, maybe trying to preempt what they think will make their fiat overlords happy. And maybe that's the reason why. But I agree with Reuben. It really doesn't make sense as to why they've become hostile towards privacy coins. But it has happened. So it's I'll put the link in the description, but it's worth watching that video as well.
And this is not just limited to Korea. If you're taking a look at Japan, earlier, I think when there was a huge exchange hack with CoinCheck, and the currency that was hacked was NEM. And NEM isn't a privacy coin. And the funds, the whole hack, no privacy coins were involved. But somehow, instead of blaming the exchange or the people that were behind the negligence of running the exchange, they instead decided to ban privacy coins because they said, because of this hack, privacy coins could have been used to preempt, to basically, hide this people's funds. But that's rubbish because it wasn't even used. So here it was a very prime example of governments wanting to be seen as doing something and taking privacy coins as a scapegoat. And it's a very dangerous path, because if you take a look at like Ethereum, Bitcoin, or, like, where do you draw the line as to what is a privacy coin, right? Everyone is now developing privacy features. So, and this was a really interesting thing that happened to me was, I was actually I can't disclose the names, but we were set to be listed on quite a big partnership, and about one day from release, that company said, no, we can't list you because our partners are not comfortable with it because you are a privacy coin. And then I'm like, well, you have Dash, you have other coins which do have privacy features on board. Why are you listing them? And then they said, because privacy is not front and center on their marketing. And they suggested that we don't put privacy as our marketing. We call ourselves something else, and privacy is just one of our features. So it becomes really meaningless, right? Like what do you mean? Like if Ethereum has privacy features, does that make it a privacy coin? So I'm really like against all these regulators not understanding the situation, doing all these stopgap solutions. And if they go ahead and do this, basically they're forcing the creation. They will be forcing the creation of all these decentralized exchanges, P2P exchanges, where they will lose total control. Because then if the liquidity starts eventually flowing to these exchanges, it'll be very, very hard to stop. So they may be just shooting themselves in the foot and actually facilitating money laundering and terrorist funding in the long term if they force their hand there.
It's such a big topic on privacy. It's something we could talk about so much, but your views there are great to hear your views on that. I mean, that's one of the reasons Cryptosi and I were so keen to get you on, because that was quite fascinating, Cryptosi, wasn't it? But we'll go to use. I think you've touched on this, but Zcoin utilizes masternode technology. What's their purpose, and do you have any plans to increase their utility?
So originally, because the original Zerocoin protocol was rather not so scalable in the sense that it was very computationally intensive. I think Cryptosi is knowing what we're talking about. Yeah. It's really slow to verify, sluggish. And our idea was that we needed an incentivized infrastructure to make sure that everyone's going to have high performance servers to do this type of transactions. Now, when we moved to Sigma, that became not as important. But Dash has actually made some really interesting improvements to their masternode technology, namely basically something like called LMQ chain locks. And that would actually provide 51% proof of work protection. That means basically 51% attack protection, where you need to also compromise both the master nodes and also the mining as well. Now, as a smaller coin, especially when we are primarily a GPU mining coin. Now, this is particularly important because as a GPU mineable coin, GPU hash rate can switch to any coin that has a GPU mineable algorithm. It's not just dedicated to Zcoin, right? So there's pros and cons. The pro is that, it's more accessible. Anyone with a GPU can mine and get some Zcoin. But the drawback is that unlike Bitcoin or Dash, which has like dedicated machines that can only mine your coin and therefore are unlikely to attack your coin, because if they attack your coin, then their own machines are worthless. GPUs can switch from different coin to different coin, and you can run hash rate against other GPU mineable coins. So as a smaller coin, I think we're like rank 80 something like that. This is a real risk for us. So I do think that masternodes providing that additional sort of chain locks protection does improve transaction finality and also protects us against any of this type of attacks while maintaining the distributed effects of a GPU mineable coin.
Hey, you've just announced a partnership, haven't you? Well, quite recently with Travala.com. What does that mean for the Zcoin users, and how did it come about?
Trivella, well, I mean, it was just really, I can't really actually remember how it came about, but we we worked with them, and they said like, hey, do you want to get added to Zcoin? And the great thing is that Trivella has a really, really big network of hotels. I think like some few million hotels or something worldwide. And what that means is that basically with Zcoin, you can actually pay directly in Zcoin and book a hotel. So we're actually going to be at CESC Crypto Economics Security Conference in San Francisco, and also at San Francisco Blockchain Week. And we book all our hotels using Trivella. So I think it's, we are aimed to be a currency. So having more places to spend Zcoin directly is always good.
Yeah, well, great stuff. That partnership can only be a good thing, obviously. But what are the main things that Zcoin plans to develop during the next year or so? So, what can the users look forward to seeing?
Well, not even next year. I mean, this year isn't over yet, and we have several new features being rolled out really, really soon. One which is something what we call receiver address privacy, where you can post an address publicly and people can pay to it, and not basically you cannot just look up the address and tell how much he has received. So that's an important improvement to privacy. So that's launching soon. We'll be also focusing on our user interface. Like currently we're using like a box standard Qt wallet, and that's changing really soon. We already have a beta out, and we hope to release that as well to improve the user experience. But right now we're also focusing on mobile wallet with the privacy support. But on the research side, and we have a new privacy protocol called Lelantus, which is actually a much better improved version of Sigma, which allows people to burn and redeem in basically any arbitrary amount, because in Sigma you kind of still have to burn in fixed denominations. And it also allows direct anonymous privacy transfers. Basically what that means is that, sender receiver, no value is disclosed, and it's almost like the holy grail of privacy. So we already have like some cryptographic libraries on that, but we plan to spend most of next year rolling that out and refining that, because we really believe that's the highest level of privacy that we can get without trusted setup, without any sort of fancy cryptography.
Exciting times, but Cryptosi, this is our most exciting question, the one we look forward to the most. All right, your time has come, Reuben. All right,
oh, no.
to answer this question, and I'm going to say already, you can't say your own project, you can't say Zcoin. All right, if you were going to go all in on one project, one that's already been released, obviously, which would it be and why?
Bitcoin SV without a doubt. No. I mean, obviously, the safe choice would be Bitcoin. I do think that, despite its, it's not the most advanced coin out there, I think it definitely has a quiet Lindy effect. I mean, it's kind of a boring choice like Bitcoin. But let's say if I can't choose Bitcoin, actually, I don't know. That would be really hard. I mean, I actually quite like Monero. I mean, although they are a competitor, I do believe they have a good combination of a strong community and privacy-conscious developers that really give a crap about what they're doing. So I guess Bitcoin first. If I can't choose Bitcoin, then maybe Monero.
Have we had anyone said Monero before, Cryptosi? Is that a first?
No, this is the first time we've had Monero. But funnily enough, on the last podcast, which you missed, with John Gillam from AdBank,
no need to take a little slide dig at me there, Cryptosi.
Yeah, well, you know how it is. So the one that you missed, I don't know, you were busy on the yacht or whatever it was you were doing. We had John Gillam on from AdBank, and he actually chose what I would consider one of AdBank's competitors. Backed basic attention token, I think it stands for. He actually chose them as the one he would go all in on. So it does seem like with the people within crypto, within a certain, I don't know if I can say lineage, but have been within crypto for a certain amount of time, they do tend to respect their competitors a lot more than be hostile towards them, and they do actually feel that their competitors are doing a good job, which is quite interesting. One thing that you may have missed there, Tom, was Reuben's response to Bitcoin SV, which by all accounts is a terrible idea. So
yes, please no.
So that was something that I actually found quite funny. That was quite a good one.
So what's the issue with that then for those kind of who are still novices who listen to us?
What's the problem with Bitcoin SV?
Yeah.
Well, your name is Craig, so I'm not sure. Well, no, who's recording is Craig. So, I mean, the ideas behind Bitcoin SV are not. I mean, if you have someone leading a coin that's willing to lie, and it's been proven time and time again that he's a fraud, and he's not only a fraud, but he's also a very unpleasant person. But I mean, some people say, well, evaluate the project based on what it is, not just the people who lead it. But I think that's a bit naive, because the direction of the project, like it or not, is set by the people who lead it, right? And, I don't know. There's just so many things that's wrong with it, but we actually have quite a few Zcoin supporters who are also Bitcoin SV supporters. So maybe I should not go into it, but then again, it just doesn't create value, right? They say they're going to support terabyte blocks, and their minor nodes keep on crashing because they can't support the large blocks that they say they do. And there's just so many things that's wrong. I think the worst one would be Kelvin. Well, how does pronounce this thing? His surname Ayr. Kelvin.
I'm not sure. Yeah, Ayr maybe. Yeah,
and his whole
Ayr.
Air, his national Cuban underage twerking team. There's just so many things wrong with that. But I would say that, I know a lot of people hate Bitcoin Cash, but I feel that's a more honest approach. Of course, Bitcoin is still seen as the most legitimate version of Bitcoin there is, right? But now they have stopped saying that Bitcoin is no longer for payments. It's all about store of value. And sure, maybe that's the case. But, if you take a look at the white paper, it does actually say payments, right? and Lightning, those interesting. I mean, the Lightning authors themselves say that it's not meant to be the scaling solution that people say that it is. It's just... So I do think that, Bitcoin Cash are trying to find better layer 1 solutions to scalability. And actually, if there's nothing wrong with layer 1 or layer 2 improvements, if both can improve, why not? So I don't know why everything has to be so binary, right? If layer 2 works, fine. If layer 1 improvements also improve scalability, both improve scalability. So why everything is has to be one way or another? So yeah, I think that's kind of it in a nutshell. But Bitcoin SV, I don't know, just seems to be waving Craig's dick here and there. I mean, that's what this project's about, right?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go all in on Reuben, it's been an absolute pleasure. Where can people go to find out a little bit more about Zcoin?
Sure. So we're at zcoin.io. That's our main website. I think our most active community is on a Telegram channel, which is at Zcoin Project. But if you go to our website, we also have a very active Twitter. So, I'm there. Our whole community is there. So find out more about us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Brilliant, Reuben. Great to have you on. Cryptosi, thank you to you as well.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
This podcast was brought to you by Meros Cryptocurrency. Meros is a cryptocurrency payment system that does what cryptocurrency originally intended to do. Be a practical and secure form of direct payment. Meros utilizes the best of current technology in a powerful new way and introduces a groundbreaking consensus mechanism called merit caching. This enables Meros to be both feeless and instant while maintaining the same level of integrity of traditional networks like Bitcoin. To find out how you can participate in the future of crypto payments, go to meroscrypto.io now.